Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of What Do You Need to Know to Move to Costa Rica? Today, we are exploring the beautiful area known as the Central Pacific.
Hello, everyone. I'm Aaron Bailey alongside my good friend and business partner, Patrick Jager. And today we are talking the Central Pacific region of Costa Rica, a
One of our
region near and
favorites.
dear to my heart. Yes, this is where I live part of the time. The first place I bought in Costa Rica. This is where I really fell in love with Costa Rica. And so I'm really excited to talk to you about my region.
Wait, before you do that, let us remind people
Okay.
that if you like this video and you want to see this and many more, we would love it, love it, love it, love it if you would subscribe, hit the thumbs up like button, send us messages. The more you engage, the more people we can reach, and we love that you're here. So, with that, Aaron, tell us about the Central Pacific.
Well, so I consider the Central Pacific kind of from Tarcoles down to Manuel Antonio Quepos, maybe Dominical, but that's probably southern. Dominical Uvita is on the edge. It's mostly around, along the Pacific coast. Um, this is all the Puntarenas province, so it's all one province, but it's kind of, which is a very, very long, kind of
Very
weirdly
long
shaped
promise.
province in
Yeah.
Costa Rica. But this is just one section of Puntarenas. I live in Playa Bejuco, which is sort of halfway between everything. You've got the major towns of Jaco and Quepos Manuel Antonio, and I'm smack dab in the middle of it all.
On a beautiful black sand beach that has turtles that hatch. It's amazing.
My
Amazing.
beach is very quiet, very quiet. My best friend and I were driving around and saw this beach and saw a for sale sign and bought the place a couple days later. But the one of the reasons why we bought this place is because we pulled up to the beach and there was literally no one on it. It is a massive, it's a very wide beach.
Yeah.
Great for surf, not so great for swimming, but it's stunningly beautiful and just very few people on it.
Well, explain
So
why
I
it's
love this
not
area.
great. Explain why it's not great for swimming.
Pretty big undertow, pretty violent waves, not violent waves, but pretty big waves. Just up the beach is Playa Hermosa, which is kind of a
Mm.
world-class surf beach.
One of my favorite
Uh,
beaches in the country.
I absolutely love Playa Hermosa. Tons of professional surfers come to this region often to surf, so I'm pretty lucky.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. Is it's a in this area there is a lot of agricultural as you get away from the beach. Although right on the beach highway you see palm oil plantations
Hmm.
just one after
Hearts of
another
palm,
after
yeah,
another.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it is it's a really unique area. A lot of the drive is you don't even see the ocean. You're kind of inland and meandering around. What I love about it is just the differences of town. Let's maybe walk through a couple of the towns because there's a big difference between Manuel Antonio and Jaco.
Absolutely. So Jaco is probably the biggest, maybe even a city. It's probably more of a town, but it's kind of the party beach of this region. It is well known in Costa Rica lore for where you go to really party hard. In terms of
Define that
if you
however you
want,
want to define it.
yeah, we'll just define that. Yeah, exactly. You can definitely get into a lot of parties, but in the last decade or so, Hakko has become very family friendly, and
Hmm.
lots of great restaurants, lots of shopping. My favorite gelato places in Hakko.
Oh, it's so good.
There's yeah, so good. And really good housing options.
Mm.
Good condos, good single family homes. Not too far from Jaco, you have Los Sueños, which is a very high end development with a beautiful marina, one of the only marinas in Costa Rica. Massive, yachts coming in and out.
Great
Marriott
golf course.
resort
Beautiful
property,
golf course.
great golf course.
Yeah.
So you've got a really kind of varied mix in Jaco and Herradura and Los Sueños in that area,
Hmm.
to the north end of the Central Pacific. Very close to San Jose, and less than an hour from the
Yeah.
airport.
To get from my house in Atenas down to Jaco is hour and 15, depending on traffic and construction. But it allows you to go through Tarcoles and see the crocodiles down in the river, which is kitsch but cool. Some really amazing. There's an incredible as you're coming down the 27th highway. There's some amazing areas, just fruit stand after fruit stand after fruit stand, which is spectacular. Some really neat towns on the way down. Um, it's interesting that you started with Jaco because I always think of the Central Pacific starting in Puntarenas, in the town of Puntarenas, um, which is where that's where the ships come in and out. The big freighters. That's where one of the two big freight ports. It's also where you can get the ferries out to Nicoya Peninsula. But it's not a expat place. So maybe you were thinking of it more like where does the expat world
Yeah,
start?
yeah, that's true. I should consider Punta Arenas, but a lot of expats don't go to Punta Arenas. It has a bit of a reputation for not being the safest place
It's
in
a
Costa
worker.
Rica. It's not bad at
It's a
all.
working class. It's a working class. Almost
Yeah.
everyone there does something tied to the port or shipping or fishing. Um, yeah, we only go. Quite honestly, we only go if we're going to get the ferry out to Nicoya.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. But generally, most expats are going to go to Jaco, Playa Herradura, Los Sueños, Hermosa, Esterillos. That's a stretch of beach in Esterillos, which is beautiful. And then my town, Playa
beautiful.
Bejuco, down to Quepos, and
Hmm.
then down to Manuel Antonio, which
And
is my favorite.
Quepos is another or Manuel Quepos is the port, right? There's a marina there too as well.
There is a marina in Quepos, yes. Yep.
Yeah. And
Yep.
the first time I came to Costa Rica, um, getting to Manuel Antonio was like putting your life in your own hands. It took us a full day to get from Arenal to Manuel
Hmm.
Antonio, and it was scary. Like those roads
Hmm.
were, it was before the
Huh.
highways were really what they are today. But I remember even then, Manuel Antonio had a draw for kind of people that want to get off the beaten path and surfers. I mean, there's the surfing there and the snorkeling in the
Yeah.
and scuba diving in the Central Pacific. I mean, it's really there's a lot of water centric activities there.
Yeah. Well, plus you've got the beautiful Manuel Antonio National Park, which is my
Oh my
favorite
gosh,
park in Costa Rica.
agreed.
You're going to see monkeys, you're going to see sloths, you're going to see all sorts of, snakes and iguanas and just amazing
There's over
wildlife in
180
the
bird
national park.
species there. Over 180 bird
Wow.
species. Yeah.
I didn't realize that. Yeah,
Uh,
usually when I'm walking through the park, I'm heading towards the beach and not paying attention to the wildlife. I'm there to relax.
all right.
I know. I know.
The, the other thing that I think is really special about the Central Pacific, and it's not just the Central Pacific, but it's really becoming known for the protections and the habitats that it does for all the different types of sea turtles. As a matter of fact, some of the beaches, there are multiple types of sea turtles that lay their eggs, and so they're all have different hatching cycles and depths. So you'll see volunteers that are like taking some eggs and moving them and putting them over here and digging them deeper because they'll have more success there. I mean, it's a whole thing. The
Yeah.
housing is pushed back away from the hotels. Everything's pushed back away from the water because they want to make sure that stretch is pristine for the turtles. That to me is like that alone is a draw to living here. Like we live where huge sea turtles hatch. That's amazing.
Yeah. Absolutely. My house is 300 meters from the water, so you just can't build right on the water. Thankfully,
Yeah.
it's really nice to have that strip of nature that's protecting the sea turtles and all other sorts of things.
You mentioned that Dominicana and Novita, which are to the south, quite a bit to the south. Interestingly, those two are, that is one of the hottest destinations in terms of
Hmm.
high-end construction, private homes, not necessarily developments, but like resort developments, but really beautiful, high-end, expensive, multi-million dollar
Yeah.
private homes down there. The thing that I find interesting when you're in Jaco or Herradura, there's Auto Mercado, which is kind of like our Whole Foods here, um, the closest thing we have to that. Um, Manuel Antonio has nice shopping, but as you start to go down, it always surprises me down there because the infrastructure doesn't feel caught up and appropriate for the expense of the houses that are being built down there.
It's a really different feeling, and it feels so disconnected from San Jose. Once you pass
Yeah,
Quepos on the highway, you really kind of enter this new world, and that's why Dominicana and Uvita are probably considered Central Pacific, but it more feels like the South Pacific region.
yeah. No, I would
And
agree
yeah,
with
the
you.
shopping's different, and it just feels magical.
Yeah.
Honestly, I was there last month, and I just loved it. It's a completely different feeling, and so I think we should do a separate video on that because it's like you said, there's so much development there. It is a very different vibe, and you feel very disconnected from the rest of Costa Rica.
Yeah, and it's interesting as you go even further down, Osa Peninsula or Golfito or even down to Panama, it is a whole like you don't go down there and then say I'm going to go up to Nicoya for the day or I'm going to go up to
Right.
shop in San Jose. It just you're in your own little bubble down there. Um, let's talk a little bit about. I'll talk a little bit about the climate. So it is pretty consistent year round. Daytime it is warm. Beaches in Costa Rica, people think, oh, you'll get a nice tropical breeze, maybe, but the heat is much more oppressive at the beaches than it is inland. And the humidity is high. And it's also a lot of tourists. So especially in high season, be prepared for just more traffic, more everything. But on the temperature, you will get these moist cold fronts that come through. But overall, you're talking about in the mid to high 20s and 30s Celsius. So we're talking anywhere from kind of mid 70s to 90s. And it's not uncommon to have a long stretch of 90s, especially
Yeah.
in the dry season. But if you go inland from like basically south of Quepos, north of Uvita, if you turn inland, you can get to Mount Chiripo, which is the highest mountain in Costa Rica. And it's not uncommon to see people with putting ice on their Instagram. Like, look, there's ice up here. I mean, it's not going to snow, but it's cold enough
Yeah.
that it gets cold. I was in Rivas and I had to have a sweatshirt on at night because it was chilly.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know if I consider that Central Pacific, but you're right. It's very close to that region, and it's a completely different world once you head up into the mountains a little bit.
Yeah. Let's talk about the rankings. When we talk about, we always like to think when we're thinking about locations, we're always trying to think about kind of the same five things that we can kind of compare across the region. So give us a rankings for this region.
Cost of living, I think, varies depending on where you're at. I think generally for beaches, it's lower than other places in Costa Rica, especially Guanacaste. The
Hmm.
cost of living around me for real estate is actually quite reasonable. For food and other things, you're paying tourist prices still, like
Yeah.
anywhere else. But you can find five $6 million homes, and you can find $150,000 condos. So it's a very wild varies wildly from wherever from town to town.
Yeah.
Um, Nightlife, I think, again, it depends on where you're at, but Jaco is filled with lots of nightlife. Hermosa, if you want to party it up, you can party it up. But then places like Esterillos or Bejuco, pretty sleepy for nightlife. Not much going on. Manuel Antonio even is pretty sleepy.
Yeah, I would agree.
It used to be kind of the LGBTQ party central in Costa Rica, and in the last since the pandemic, it has gotten quite sleepy. So it's just very chill, very laid back, not much nightlife. Um, the walking score, again, Jaco is very walkable. Quepos is very walkable. Manuel Antonio is not. It's very hilly. It's up and down and up and down. Um, but every morning in Bejuco, I go for a nice 45-minute walk along the beach. It's
Sounds so nice.
absolutely lovely. And I think the last one is air quality. And, because of the humidity, the air quality is probably not as great. It's not as good as it is in the Central Valley, where temperatures are
Hmm.
cooler. But as in Costa Rica, everywhere, there's no smog, there's no pollution. It is
Yeah.
very livable.
I I think the thing about the Central Pacific, like you said earlier, it's very long and vast. I mean, there's so many differences. The nice thing about exploring this area, if this is an area people are interested in living in, is that there's a little something for everyone. If you need to have a lot of hustle and bustle, Jaco. I'm not a huge fan of Jaco. I go there. There's a couple shops I love, and I love that gelato place you turned me on to. But I'm otherwise I'd rather go to Hermosa or Herradura or or Esterillos. Um, but a lot of people love it, and that's for them. And like you chose this beautiful beach. Interestingly enough, that you now Airbnb that house a lot because it was too isolated for you.
It was too isolated for me 24/7, 365,
Yeah,
but I love going there for weeks at a time. I have a number of renters who come for 2 months at a time in the winter,
yeah,
the U.S. winter, and they absolutely love it. And also,
yeah.
let's mention before we get in trouble that these are our opinions. These are not facts. We're here to tell you all our experiences. But if you
Hmm.
disagree, shoot us a friendly comment. Don't shoot us a rude comment. Shoot us a friendly comment. We would love to have a conversation with you on
Yeah.
what you think about the Central Pacific in the comments.
Well, let's use that as a segue because I think there's a lot we can teach anybody and talk to them about. We want to hear from you. What is it about this area that you want to know about? I mean, that's really what your Pura Vida is all about, is helping people discover their piece of Costa Rica, not just where to live, but how to thrive there. So all these are to introduce you, yeah, and give you our opinions. Luckily, these are all places we've gone to often, live in, have friends in. So we're not doing these totally blind. But if you want to get in touch with us directly, hola at yourpuravita.com. Or you can also get on and leave comments here on our YouTube or our Instagram, and all that you can find at yourpuravita.com/links. And as we said at the top of this video, we'll say it again here. Please subscribe if this is interesting to you. Hit the thumbs up button. The more people interact with this, the more people get to see this. And we're really hoping that at the end of the day, this helps some people choose to move here or not move here because it doesn't feel like it will fit them or it feels like it will fit them great. And that's our whole goal. So for this region, we're done. There are many more regions to come, many more towns to come. Until the next one, as always, Pura Vida.